Well, so hi. Yes,
Hi.
I can do the things where we say hello now because I
Let's
did
do
share it. Yay. So yeah, we're here. What the hell? Is it a Wednesday?
Mm.
Does it feel Wednesday-y to you?
It's Wednesday, March 24th. March is almost over.
March 24th. Do you know that March 24th is an incredibly important date?
Why is
And in
that?
Shermer, Illinois, March 24th, 1984, all of the 5 kids were detentioned in the Breakfast Club.
Oh, Lord. That was March 24th?
Yeah.
Well, that is a significant movie day, isn't it?
It is. It's pretty huge. It's a big deal. That was one of my vital movies that installed some values.
That makes me wonder. That makes me wonder if you compiled a list of like significant dates from movies, like fictional, like something important happened on, like what's the date in Back to the Future? It's like November 5th, I want to say, is when he goes back
4th.
in time, something like that. I wonder if you compiled all of them, if you'd find that you could have like a holiday every day of the year from like celebrating different movies, significant dates. Because there's been a lot of movies and stuff.
I have many
Some of them
friends
would have to be pretty obscure.
who I think should probably do the like reach out and get the astrological chart for that day in the movie. Epic things might happen. That would be fucking cool, actually. Yeah. Just like here's the horoscope for this movie in this day.
Yeah.
Or like horoscope for Die Hard.
Right.
Horoscope for I don't know. Insert any movie.
Die Hard is Christmas, so
yeah, but in a particular year.
True.
It was set and a particular location.
There's another totally random movie related trivia thing that years ago. I don't think I've shared this on the show. If I have, stop me. Okay. So years ago, I had the thought, what movie features the largest amount of money being stolen? Did we talk about this?
No.
But so like there's heists, right? Yeah, there's heists where they steal $1 million or $2 million and then there's some that go. And so when I looked this up, I was like, I think I know, or I have a guess of what I think the most amount of money ever stolen in a movie is, because it's the most amount I could think of. But then I looked it up and no one had compiled this list. This is years ago. And I was like, this seems like the kind of thing the internet would have an answer for. So I recently, years later, looked it up and someone finally compiled the list. Guess what was at the top of the list? The movie that I thought was number 1.
Oh, great. I think I thought of the Italian Job, but go ahead.
There's a lot of money in there. The number 2 is a movie called damn it. Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Catherine does
something about a condor.
The stereotypical tight leather pants and lasers that you have to like dodge around doing gymnastics, which is so stupid.
Pierce Brosnan is not in that?
No. I can't remember what it's called. It's something like infidelity or insurrection or some. So it's like just a word like that.
Okay,
but it's not that. Anyway, number 1. Speaking of Die Hard 3.
Oh,
they steal $120 billion worth of gold.
Jeez.
And then Jeremy Irons has that awesome speech where he's like, we're an army with no country, but now we can decide which country we will buy. And I was like, that's badass. And like the next one down is like there's nothing even close.
Right.
There's nothing like that. Number 1 is like $100 billion more than anything else that's ever been stolen in a movie.
Okay, because I don't remember Die Hard 3 or whether I've watched it. It's possible that I have. And it's that amount in gold.
Yeah.
So already hundreds of billions of dollars is just hard to fucking fathom anyway.
Have you not seen Die Hard 3? It's great.
It's possible. I don't necessarily remember it.
Yeah, the first one is awesome. The second one is like a complete rehash of the first one. But then the third one, they were like, we can't just do the same thing again. So the third one is like a buddy cop comedy kind of thing, and it's great. The third one is awesome. It's Sam Jackson and Bruce Willis and like an actually clever plot.
It's
that
possible.
Like it makes sense. See, like the first movie is like right guy in the wrong place, right? The second one is unbelievable, meaning like it stretches your suspension of disbelief because and they just think that they can get away with it by being like, how could the same thing happen to the same guy twice? But it's actually stupid because it doesn't make sense. But the third one, there's a reason why it's John McClane. There's a reason why he ends up getting embroiled in this plot. So much better writing. And the third one is, and then we just pretend the next two didn't happen.
Sure. What's the year of that release? Do you recall?
90s.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of things I totally saw, but I just saw so many things in high school that I don't necessarily remember them. They sort of blend together. I do sort of recall the difference between the Lethal Weapon and Turner and Hooch and like everybody. I saw everybody's movie. Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. I saw them all. I saw all the Steven Seagal movies.
And Turner and Hooch.
That was a joke.
Okay.
Tango and Cash, Turner and Hooch, Lethal Weapon. It's all the same movie.
Yeah.
Insert
one of them has here. A dog as one of the protagonists. So
good. So good. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I saw it, but I just don't, it doesn't pull apart from, because it was like every Saturday was a new one of these on HBO. Plus watching. Yeah.
Well, Die Hard 3 is worth going back and watching again. First one is classic movie. Third one is like legitimately a good sequel. Second one is kind of lame. Has a good villain, but they don't really do anything with it. But then the fourth and fifth one and
so we didn't come up with a homework assignment on air last week, but
no, we can do it now. You had a recommendation for me and I had a recommendation for you. So
I had a recommendation for you?
Yeah, you said Mr. Destiny, right?
Oh, did you watch it?
No. Oh,
great.
I'm saying you suggested it, and I was like, I'm not gonna have time.
Yeah. Well, so gosh, TV lately.
Yeah.
Oof, I've been watching things so there's a bunch of things I know that are in my hopper to watch, like this recent season of The Magicians. I love that freaking show, and they have a new season, and I just have not allowed myself to watch it yet because I'm scared. Because I know it could be really good and wonderful, but I am also could feel emotions. There's I get that that's our show. There's what is it, Ms. Maisel? There's a season of that I haven't caught up on. It's a good show, and I know it's gonna be. I just don't. I'm having. And I'm not alone here. I'm having a little bit of some anxiety around watching things because life is a little challenging. I don't know if you've noticed there's stuff going on, and I've been through a lot of emotional stuff and other humans too, right? Yeah. So it's almost sad because I'm watching things I know I don't really care about, like Superman and Lois and The Flash and this new Batwoman. And it's fine. I'm not like, woohoo, I'm having a wonderful experience, but I'm also not disappointed because I also know that they're not great. So when good things happen, I'm like, oh, right. That was above my really low expectations. That was kind of okay.
Dude, I'm so busy right now that I have not even watched the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, if that tells you something.
That is
I mean, you know how I feel about those Marvel movies, and I am like, I haven't even watched it yet. Like, so what have I been watching? In the limited time that I have, I've been watching things that are very comforting.
Yeah.
So what stuff that I've watched before, typically, TV shows. We're watching What We Do in the Shadows, which have you seen the movie?
I still have to. I think it's in my queue.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Really, really fun and like very light. And the show is fabulous. Really, really good. That's like one of the only two things that I'm watching that I haven't seen before. We're rewatching Rick and Morty, or I'm rewatching it because Faye hasn't seen the newest couple seasons. And Liz and I, this is why I brought this up. Liz and I went back and forth literally for days. Like we finished something we were watching, maybe WandaVision, and we're like, what are we going to watch next? And she kept suggesting things, and I was like, that's not, no. And then I suggested things, and she's like, no. We actually started watching two shows, and she vetoed both of them. We started watching, and understandably, we started watching Ozark season 3, which is like, I mean, one of the darkest shows I've ever seen. And then we started literally watching a show called Dark, which I heard from a friend was a really good time travel-y kind of show. Very interesting and original and dark as fuck, obviously. And she's just like, no, I can't do this. And I kept thinking, like, what I want to watch is like The Orville. Do you know what that is?
I don't think so. I mean, there's a shape in my head trying to form, but not really.
The Orville was Seth MacFarlane of Family Guy, making Star Trek: The Next Generation with fart jokes. And it's actually, I will make a strong argument that it is the best Star Trek show in the last decade, or the best Star Trek anything in the last decade, because everything else that people have made that has the title Star Trek slapped on it is not Star Trek. But this is actually energetically, thematically, it feels like a love letter to Next Generation, which I love. It's just not quite as smart, but it still has some good science fiction concepts and things like that. However, I've seen it just recently, and I don't like rewatching most things immediately after having seen them.
Right.
So I was like, no, I can't do that. So we settled on a show that we are now half hate watching, I think, called Eureka. Have you ever seen it? Do you know what it is?
Oh my God, I love that show. See, when people are stressed out and they want something that's just light, fluffy, happy, but also like semi-enjoyable. It's like, I think Eureka is the TV show equivalent of going to Applebee's and getting one of those skillet cookie sundaes with all the stuff on it and sharing it with your friends. That is, I mean, it's not a good cookie, but it's really, really hot and it's crispy on the edges and it's got yummy like ice cream. And
I think Applebee's is, and I'm not a fan of Applebee's. I actually think you're overselling it a little bit. I think it's like a little closer to like bordering on McDonald's for me. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what I fucking need right now? I need some McDonald's.
Yeah.
The writing is so formulaic and so cliche, and like we're like 7 episodes in and the protagonist is still going like every time something crazy happens he's like, well, it can't possibly be that, and you're like, at what point? It's like light and fluffy X-Files. Right. And when at some point you're looking at Scully and you're like, with all the things you've seen, how can you still be skeptical about anything?
Is he playing the Dudley Do-Right? Is that what the historical, like the cop,
straight man cop character?
He's like kind of like earnest and doesn't like, whoa.
Yeah, I don't mean straight as in not gay. I mean like the comedy foil. I don't know. It's just and it's so turn your brain off that it's kind of perfect. We both keep commenting every time we have time to sit down and watch it that we're like, I hate this and I love this. Like we keep pausing it and making fun of it. It's almost our own kind of Mystery Science Theater thing.
It just reminds me of riding the kiddie rides at Disneyland.
Oh, good point. Good analogy. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like there's no real stakes here and it's not really that interesting. But you know what I don't need right now? I don't need to go 60 miles an hour backwards through flame and fire and upside down.
I really do love. So the premise of Eureka is that apparently there is this secret government town full of the greatest minds and scientists and engineers around ever. And so it's secret. And this marshal somehow happens upon this town and ends up replacing the sheriff. So that's the thing. It's this he's a sheriff who he's followed his daughter who'd run away and ended up in this town. And so he has to be the person attempting to keep the town together while every other week somehow someone accidentally destroys something or unravels space-time or melts half the city. And
every single episode has a point when some genius character spouts off a bunch of technical mumbo jumbo and he's like, whoa, slow down here. Like, you got to explain it and then the blue collar, like, grit and tenacity almost always saves the day in the end.
Yeah.
It's very comparable to me, but more exciting and a little more X-Files-y to the Big Bang Theory, in the sense that I've always said the Big Bang Theory is like a smart show for stupid people. It's a show that makes you feel smart if you're not. But if you actually are, you can't watch that show.
I actually think that Eureka and The Flash are really similar. The way in which you're describing Eureka. Oh,
you're totally right. You're totally right. I watched like 3 or 4 seasons of Flash. You're totally right.
And I've always thought it was like way doofier and happy than it should be. And I'm like, why do people like this? And I keep watching it because it, much like musicals, accidentally makes me cry without earning it. They recently had an episode.
Me too.
Where it was like, it was all about
such a good
love.
way of putting it. Like, you didn't earn this, but I don't know why. It's so emotional.
It's really dumb. The CGI is dumb. The way that they have Flash save things, I'm like, wait a second. Let me guess. He runs really, really fast.
Yeah. Or one of my favorites is he'll do this with his hands and make tornadoes.
Or sending lightning bolts. Oh, good Lord. And
well, speaking of Flash, did you watch
the movie?
Yeah. Do we want to segue?
Sure.
I mean, that's a reasonable jumping off point.
So last minute. Well, I'm just going to wrap up our thoughts about Breakfast Club, which we started with forever.
Holy shit. That was a callback. Good job.
Before we move on, this is an incredibly important movie, and maybe we can do it as an assignment in one of the future episodes, because this idea in the 80s of the value of a whole bunch of different personalities and the dropping in and recognizing, like a whole movie that's about people recognizing their similarities and actually having true connection in a time where so Wonder Woman was touching on the fact, the 84, the one thing that's fascinating about the movie is it's touching on this superficiality that begins to ramp up in the 80s. And so Breakfast Club is sort of a counter to that phenomenon of people getting ridiculously disconnected and into materialism and just like moving further and further away from humanity. And I think it's really cool that I think I saw Breakfast Club when I was 7 at my cousin's house. And I really looked up to my cousins, and they thought it was a kick-ass movie. And I just kept rewatching it as I grew up. Freaking love that movie. And it's, I don't know, I've never really fully bought into the theory that anyone's different from anyone else. And I think that movie helped me have that philosophy, and it's really worked out for me. The idea that there's unifying forces in humanity, where if you poop, we probably have something in common, you know?
Well, what's the old saying that it's like everyone has in common that we're completely unique, and also we're all different, and and that's exactly what makes us all the same. Like both at the same time. And it's paradoxical, because like the truth is there are human characteristics, or you could even say animal characteristics that are universal. And then there's also, which that movie celebrates, the differences too. You know, speaking of shows we're in the middle of and haven't watched in like weeks, we were watching Freaks and Geeks. And when you brought this up, I was like, oh, you know what? Freaks and Geeks is like the Breakfast Club, the series, in a lot of ways.
I still haven't seen that. I'm writing it down.
It's freaking fantastic. You want to talk about good writing and great acting, and just so far ahead of its time, and very much about life in the 80s. So I think it's like it's got that Stranger Things 1980s nostalgia stuff, but it doesn't like, ooh, remember this? It's like, actually, no, this is what it was really like. And you're like, oh my God, that is what it was like. And it's very, very well done.
Nice.
I haven't finished the series, but they've seen it multiple times, I think.
Okay. I'm adding
but it definitely, if you like Breakfast Club, it definitely has a very similar, and maybe even like updated, you know, like that movie's very 80s.
Yes.
And this is about the 80s, but it wasn't made in the 80s. So the storytelling and the acting and the writing has like progressed.
Since you sometimes know about directors, has anybody become the new, is it John Hughes? John Hughes. Has anybody become the new Hughes?
I mean, not that like captures that. Did you see 8th Grade?
I don't think so. I did see Easy A. That was pretty decent.
Bo Burnham, probably my favorite stand-up comedian, which is saying something, because I am a big comedy fan and I have a lot of favorites. But Bo Burnham is just this auteur fucking child prodigy genius. He, after making several comedy specials and then writing, starring, and directing in his own TV show called Zack Stone is Gonna Be Famous, that was very funny, didn't take off. He then wrote and directed a movie that was super critically acclaimed. He was not in it, but it's called 8th Grade, and it is supposed to be, according to most people who describe it, it is like finger on the pulse of what it is actually like right now to be a kid in school, with social media and with all of these different things. And it's like the kind of writing that feels like you're really following people around in this. And it, that movie comes to mind when I think about what Breakfast Club captured at that time. I think the Spider-Man movies were in like overtly intended to be a kind of John Hughes callback, but I mean, they're superhero movies, so they're not the same thing. But I don't know, when I think about like King of Staten Island, wasn't that one that came out recently that had
I've not
a bit of that
yet.
I don't know. I definitely don't think there is like one director who has become known for that, for doing those kinds of movies.
That's fair. It's not a requirement. There's all sorts of stories that people are telling. Sure. I know there are tons of movies being made for Netflix that are high school specifically.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the infrastructure is a little bit different with all the streaming spaces, that like a major release about high school people, like high school students. I don't know if that's happened in a while. Not maybe since American Pie, or maybe I wouldn't notice if it had. I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely not something I can think of that was like a splash in that way.
Because the thing about the 80s and before was that there was the idea that the people who went to the movies were high school students and not just everybody going.
Right.
There was some point at which they started broadening the audience that they were making movies for.
Well, that's because the high school students grew up.
Yeah.
They became 20 and 30-year-olds, and then now Marvel is the movies for those high school students. They're just not high school students anymore. They're 30 and 40 years old.
Totally. All right. Not related. Not likely to be a good transition. But so you gave me like morning of yesterday. I'm like, hey, what's our assignment? Are we watching Jack Snyder's cut of
Jack
Snyder, Rob Schneider's
Rob Schneider's Just version. Ice League. That's
you can do it.
The sequel to Deuce Bigelow.
Ice League. That's not the sequel to Waterboy.
Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah. The Just Ice League starring Rob Schneider and of course, Adam Sandler.
Yep. Okay. So you're like, oh, I want to talk about, is it Annihilation?
Yeah.
The name of the movie. Yeah. So if I had been, I was half awake in the texting when I probably shouldn't be in bed, haven't gotten up. I'm like, yeah, totally. I'll just find it and we'll do it. And then it was in my Plex server. So then I did watch it.
Oh, do you hate me now?
Well, I think we've established that you and I have different genres we prefer watching.
I said the word creepy when I described it, right?
Wait, did you?
I'm pretty sure I did. I'm pretty sure I said creepy as one of the primary words.
I'm looking it up. Oh, it does say creepy.
Yeah.
Creepy and beautiful, and I think deeply symbolic. I missed the creepy part.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
So you're like watching and you, oh my God.
There are things I can't unsee, and that's okay.
Oh, Lord.
That is okay. I think I saw as I was like requesting it. I think I saw it like a cover. It seemed like there were like women, maybe some guns. It looked like an adventure. How would you synopsize the movie of like it's sort of hard to just
it's really complicated. Okay, first let's give some context, okay?
Sure.
So there's a movie called Ex Machina.
Okay.
That is a fabulous science fiction about artificial intelligence, and it made a huge splash. Love the movie, really good movie, great acting, great just filmmaking, very cinematic. And I love Joe Rogan's way of describing it is he said that he has this rule in his mind that he like counts the number of times that he calls them cut the shit moments. And cut the shit means like you're watching a movie and you're like it's the suspension of disbelief. And he says that Ex Machina is one of the only movies he's ever seen where he cannot find a single cut the shit moment. Like everything in that movie feels it's totally out there about artificial intelligence and robots and stuff, but you follow it every step of the way and you're just like, yep, okay.
Yeah.
Really interesting. So Alex Garland, who directed that movie and maybe wrote it too, I think. Also, his follow-up was Annihilation. So Natalie Portman, and some other people who
Natalie Portman,
Oscar Isaacs, who was also in
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah, she has a part in it too, and
America
then other
Ferrera.
People. Oh, is she the
America Ferrera? I think it's
the Marine.
Yeah, and the woman who plays Valkyrie, whose name I don't always know, in Thor Ragnarok, and she's in it.
Who was she?
She was the other scientist, who figured out the thing.
The one who doesn't leave, like, intentionally?
Yeah.
That's the girl from... No!
Yeah!
No way!
What's her name?
You're
new famous... What's her face?
Annihilation. Annihilation. I'm not going to try to spell that right now.
Yeah.
Tessa Thompson. No.
Yeah.
I totally didn't recognize her. She's so timid and like small. Like, wow.
Well, and really, America's not really like all of the other characters she's played either in this.
I mean, fucking props. Because I like when you don't even recognize somebody who I like. Wow. First of all, like, let's just say that was awesome. Okay, so what is this movie? I don't think that you can even enjoy this movie if you don't think about the symbolism.
Right.
Because when I first watched it, I didn't get it. And there are some times when I'm watching movies where I'm watching it and I'm like, this movie is dumb. And then there are other times where I'm like, I think I'm dumb. I think this movie is smarter than me and I don't get it. And I think they meant something here and I'm not getting it. And it took me watching it multiple times before I started to piece together what I think is going on here.
Right. So you had no idea and then you went back and watched some more. Correct. So I've been, when I haven't been accidentally slamming my arm into the doorways a couple times today, I don't know I got to update my system to recognize where my width and doors and things. But when I'm not yelling at the door and saying,
arms are getting longer.
On my way to the bathroom, I'm in the bathroom going, cool. We're talking about this. We're talking about this movie. Right. So with there's symbolism, I'm just gonna go unconscious mind, just bring it out. What do we got here?
Well, let's start with synopsis without spoilers. Okay.
So
the movie starts. There's a lot of relational stuff going on where you're seeing interactions between a couple. And you're not really understanding what's going on, but they're establishing a relationship. But then there's also this science fiction plot of some kind where something crashes to Earth.
Yes.
And hits a lighthouse.
Yes.
On the coast of Florida somewhere and begins to expand, kind of like WandaVision, a bubble of energy of some kind that literally looks iridescent like a bubble. And every time, and it's growing slowly but surely, it's getting bigger and bigger. And it's at the point when the movie takes place, it's been there for a couple of years and they've quarantined it and they're trying to keep it secret. It's in basically the swamp, so it hasn't like engulfed any cities or anything. Yeah. But they've been sending people in to go find out what's happening, and no one has come back.
Right. And
it's kind of see-through, so you can look at the place, you can look into it, but nobody has any information. And then what ends up happening, this is all quite near the beginning, is Natalie Portman's character, she's a biologist. Her husband, after a year of being missing, shows back up at her house, but has no recollection of where he's been, right. and then starts to have like severe organ failure. Yep. And she gets taken to a secret facility, and then she finds out he was sent in and he's the only person to ever come back out. That is the premise.
Yes.
Of the movie. That's how it starts. And then I can't share much more
say
without spoiling stuff. Yeah. So I guess spoilers moving forward.
I suppose so. So spoilers moving forward is that she joins a team to go in to find out what the fuck. Just to make that short. And this particular team are all women. There's a radio specialist.
No, she was a physicist, like that you're talking
physicist,
about Tessa Thompson,
biologist, and a saucy person.
the Marine.
Oh, Marine. Yeah. So saucy, up for sex person. I don't know. So one of the things going on for me with this movie is that I have so environment is really important, and the ritual of dropping into a movie is really important. And one of the things that's happened in my world is some of my roommates no longer work outside of the house, and sometimes are cooking in the kitchen and making noises, which changes my ability to drop in fully to any experience. And I have a new roommate, and we're all sort of masking up. So I was like, they were in the kitchen making noises. I was in a different room than normal. So there's stuff I missed because I was watching a smaller, not as loud thing. So I may have missed some stuff, like the ability to drop in fully and let the thing happen.
This is also a very hypnotic movie in the visuals and in just like very slow scenes where you really need to let yourself be hypnotized by the film.
I totally dig. So Jennifer Jason Leigh is in Atypical right now, which is a wonderful show that she's not, I don't think the first couple seasons, she doesn't quite land in her body in this show. It's just sort of awkward and hard to watch. And like this movie, she's very Jennifer Jason Leigh in a way that I'm like, oh yeah. Totally can appreciate her being in stuff and showing up.
It's funny. What's the Tarantino movie? Hateful Eight?
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
That whenever I think of Jennifer Jason Leigh, that's my favorite role of hers. She always pops to mind in that role. And so when you say she's very Jennifer Jason Leigh, I felt like she was really subdued in this part. I mean, good for the character, but she was not like, she wasn't doing a lot.
She's just very good at dark.
Yeah.
Like melancholic. Melancholic and complicated.
Yeah,
that was her sort of specialty for a lot of years. There's a very complicated internal world going on in that human. I love that she finally gets to adventure into the situation she's been putting people into.
Yeah,
because she was the psychologist that was profiling all of the people that she sent in.
That's right. She's the psychologist. I forgot that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So they all.
Yeah.
This
so they
first
all
female
go in.
Team.
Yeah. They all go in, and then the next scene after they walk in is Natalie Portman waking up in her tent.
Yes.
And she comes out, and it turns out that they've been in there for 4 days, and no one remembers setting up camp.
Right.
None of them have any memory of the first 4 days of them being there, and they've eaten half of their rations, and they're like, okay, this is clearly weird.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely you start to discover that this field is causing things to, I'm going to just use the ambiguous word transform.
Okay.
That things are mutating or merging or separating in unique and not necessarily beneficial ways, but not necessarily not beneficial ways. It's more just random in a lot of sense.
Sure.
Like they run into an alligator, I'm assuming since it's Florida, that is mutated, and they end up killing it, but it seems to have like shark teeth or something.
Yeah.
They find these flowers that are all growing on one branch, but it's different flowers. Just stunningly beautiful movie. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Like the design, the effort that they put to the scenes where there's trees, where you're walking through and there's like colorful flowers growing around the tree. Those are not CGI. Somebody went in there by fucking hand and like put this around all these trees. It's amazing. And then like one of my favorite scenes near the end when she's on the beach, where the sand has grown into these glass trees that are just, I mean, breathtaking.
Yes.
Like really, I think the movie's gorgeous and also horrifically creepy.
Yeah. Well, essentially on any scary adventure, not everyone's going to survive. Like people are going to be attacked. Oh yeah, there's that one lady who we haven't mentioned.
The one that with the
insert
bear?
White woman here.
Yeah.
Lady.
Yeah, you're talking about the the one she kind of makes friends with, and then is the first one to get checked off the list. The first little Indian to fall.
So as you go in, there's so many movies like this, like going deep into the jungle. What is it? Heart of Darkness. This is our sci-fi Heart of Darkness movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
So one frame that I have mentioned on the show before, and I highly encourage everyone to play with this frame, which is any time that a character is going into a mystical, mysterious world, whether it's Narnia or their what are other good examples? The Never-Ending Story. They go into Fantasia. There's lots. Wizard of Oz is the classic example.
Okay. Yeah.
Joseph Campbell refers to this as crossing the threshold.
Mm-hmm.
And that threshold is from, at one perspective, is it can be from the known to the unknown. But the other way that you can look at it is that it is always, or it can always be interpreted as a journey into the unconscious.
Okay.
So that to me is the Rosetta Stone to understanding this movie, is if you imagine that the thing they're going into is the unconscious, and then you listen to the lines that they drop about how they're being transformed,
right?
About how you can't go into this place without coming out different.
Yes.
And then all of these different elements start to fall into place. And then the ending is still really mysterious. And like, what in the fuck? Like the first time I watched it, I was like, what is happening at the end? Before we get to the end though, can we talk about some of the creepy scenes?
Okay, wait. So like the closest I got to, I came out of one of the bathroom trips just saying, really, we're always forever changed in any adventure. We never return or wake up the same each day. There's always transformation that's happening constantly. And the idea that we can attempt to hold on to who we were the day before, or show up to another person like they're the same person that they were the day before. It's one of the things I love in the Ho'oponopono meditation that we have both learned to do, the visualization, the idea that you can do a mutual forgiveness process, heal things between people, and then sever the connection so you can make a new connection, being able to see people new each day, including yourself. That's as close as I got, because here's this thing where I don't know. There's this wonderful scene in Xena Warrior Princess. I think it's in one of this like early first season, where she throws a rock into the lake or the river or whatever, and you see the ripples out, and she's like, eventually, you throw a rock into the river and eventually the ripples will settle down, but that river is forever changed. It's never the same, that sort of thing. And I'm like, it's as close as I could get to what the heck is this movie about, potentially.
Okay, well, so if you haven't seen this movie and you want to, full warning, it's very creepy. We'll talk about one of the creepy scenes in just a second. My favorite creepy scene, because oh boy. But the ending of this movie, I'm gonna interpret it in my own way, and I highly recommend you watch it on your own first if you are interested in this, before you listen to my pontification about it. However, can we just talk about the bear?
My God.
So they start running into creatures, right? And at one point, her friend, the blonde white lady you mentioned, she gets taken by a bear, and then the America Ferrera, is that what you said?
I think so. I think
she goes crazy, and she had said early on there's two theories about why nobody comes out. One is something in here kills them, and the other one is they go crazy and kill each other. And they clearly found there's an alligator and a fucking bear that kill them. But also she starts to go crazy. And there's reasons why that I don't have to go into, but she ends up knocking them all out and tying them to a chair. And then while she's there, like about to like go completely nuts and kill them, she hears the blonde white lady crying, "Help me," from outside. So she runs downstairs, and then you hear a large crash. And then all three main characters left are tied up upstairs in this house. and slowly you hear the sound of something coming up the stairs.
Right.
And this creature, it's clearly a bear of some kind that is missing most of its face.
Yes.
And it comes up the stairs, and like at this point, I'm already holding my breath, right? I love moments in scary movies. Sorry, I'm bumping my mic. I love moments in scary movies where they take that jump scare feeling, but they just stretch it.
Yeah.
So it's like, ha, ha, ah, ah! Like I can't. You don't let me calm down.
Right.
And there's very few movies to me that can just like elevate it and be like, nope, right here. You're just going to stay right here at like redlining.
Yeah.
So the bear comes up and so they're all tied up and they're like, and the bear comes over and gets close to them. And then one of the creepiest things I've ever seen in a movie, the bear opens its mouth and it makes the sound of their friend saying, help me, help. And it's awful and beautiful.
It's so gross and yes, very creepy.
So long story short, the bear's about to eat one of them, and then America Ferrera comes back up and shoots it, and then the bear kills her, and then kills the bear.
Kills her, also just rips her bottom jaw from her face.
Yeah.
And if you've ever wanted to see Jane the Virgin get her face ripped off by a mutant bear, or if you've never wanted to see Jane the Virgin get her face ripped off by a mutant bear,
don't watch this movie.
You cannot unsee that.
Let's talk about horror movies for a second here. When I was a teenager and I started realizing that I really liked scary movies, I thought there was something wrong with me. Like I really did. Like I had a deep fear and shame that I was like a psychopath because I liked scary movies. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Why do I like these things? And then one day I started thinking about my mom and how my mom loved to watch, what is it, like Lifetime movies? It's like tragedy porn.
Yes.
Right? It's just like they're
always a widow.
Just sadness. It's just sad. That's what the whole movie is about. It's just meant to make you go, I don't like those movies, but I like the fear thing. And I've gotten shit from people who I respect and love who have looked down their nose at me because I like these kinds of creepy horror movies. So listen, if you don't like them, fine. Totally fine. You don't have to watch them. But I find them to be like, I don't experience what you experience. If you don't like them, I promise you, whatever it is that you experience when you watch them, that's not what I'm experiencing. I experience a kind of, I don't know. Penn Jillette. Woo! Left turn. Penn Jillette made this argument once. He said, the argument that violent movies or violent video games are a celebration of violence is a complete misunderstanding of what they do and what they're for. He makes the claim that violent video games and violent movies are in fact a celebration of life simply because they are not actually hurting anyone. If you knew that what you're watching was real, you wouldn't enjoy it. That's called a snuff film. And when you watch something like that, you like immediately you're like, oh, I don't want to see that. That's gross. That makes me feel terrible because this is real. But knowing that it's not real is like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Because it's almost like it inoculates you in a way to the fear. So you can like try on what would it be like to be in that situation. And I believe that you end up a little less scared of it, even living through someone else's experience. Maybe that's just a justification for my own morbid sociopathy or psychopathy.
Well, I was just thinking about what my edge is because I totally love violent movies, and there are some that are pretty gore filled and pretty gross. And then there's something about the horror genre that is not my flavor.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I did not emphasize creepy enough, because this is not Hereditary. So don't ever watch Hereditary, please. Never. Sure. I love that movie, and it is a movie that like I need to recover after I watch it. For like weeks. Yeah.
I just saw something. I think it's Rave 7, or like maybe it's just Rave. There's this movie with Zoe Bell, who's a stunt actress, and now
I know who she is.
Choreographer and all that.
She's Uma Thurman's stunt double.
Yep.
Quite frequently.
She is in this movie where she gets kidnapped and then thrown in to a situation where there are women who have to fight to the death. They're just sort of thrown into these cement cages that have cameras on them, and then every night different ones of them have to fight to the death, just trying to get out of this maze. It is really violent, just fists, just fists and survival.
Yeah, and you enjoyed it.
It was on the edge of being a little too realistic. What I really enjoy when it's going to be incredibly violent and incredibly bloody, I like the blood to be sort of slightly unreal.
Yeah,
which is why I could handle Spartacus.
You watch Kill Bill, for instance, and like people who are like, I don't like gore, are like, yeah, but this is a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like this is so over the top that it's like, that's not even a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the ending, because I need to wrap this up.
Yeah, well, symbolic. So we're going into the unconscious.
Yeah. Okay. So the blonde lady gets eaten by the bear.
Yep.
America gets eaten by the bear.
Yeah.
Tessa Thompson from Thor kills the bear, and then the psychologist lady takes off on her own.
She surrenders. Tessa Thompson surrenders.
Yeah. And then after the psychologist lady takes off on her own, Natalie Portman is there with Tessa Thompson, and she decides, I'm not going to fight it. Like she says, you want to, what is it? She
you want to fight it. She wants to something it.
She wants to study it or something, or understand it. Yeah. She wants to understand it. You want to fight it. I don't want to do either of those things. So She just walks over, and again, one of the creepiest imageries, some of the creepiest imagery in the film are these trees that are shaped like people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, as soon as you see them, you're just like, oh, and they're beautiful. It's like flowers. Yeah. But it's shaped like a person, and you're like, I don't know how that happened, but I don't like it. And so then she sort of walks off, and Natalie Portman's following her, and then she's not there anymore, and you're assuming that she turned into one of the trees of some kind. Yeah. So Natalie Portman quests off by herself to go find the lighthouse. By the way, symbolism, lighthouse, a beacon of some kind to illuminate the darkness and protect you from the rocks and the shore and all, and the danger. So there's symbolism there too. I don't think it's coincidental that this thing crashed into a lighthouse. So she ends up on the beach, and there's this one moment where left is home and right is the lighthouse. Right. And she stands there and drops her pack and looks both ways. And like, I didn't notice that the first time, but I was like, oh, like this is her going, no, I'm going further in. I'm going to keep going. And it's, the hero's journey. So she turns and goes towards it. And then there's these trees that are made out of the sand that's turned to glass. And she's like walking through. It's freaking gorgeous. She gets there, and there's bones, like human skeletons, in front of the lighthouse.
Yes.
Just like set up uniformly. And you don't know how it happened, but you're just looking at it and you're like, this is exactly this is like a big sign that says turn back now.
Yeah. That was in the pirate movie last week too.
Yeah.
Walking past the bones.
Yeah.
Well,
it's It's so very Joseph Campbell in the sense that it's like this, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So she literally goes into a cave. And I don't need to explain all of the things that happen there. There's something about her husband who was the one who had gone in, and him lighting himself on fire. That part of the story is relevant, but it's not about the deepest symbolism of this. So she goes in there, and the psychologist lady is in there, and she kind of explodes into a being of light of some sort. Right. And then the being of light coalesces into a shape that is humanoid, right, that is mirroring Natalie Portman's every move.
Right.
She runs out of the cave at the bottom. It's a black humanoid, almost like a shadow.
Uh-huh.
So she runs out of the cave back up into the lighthouse, and it's already up there. So immediately there, the story point is, okay, I can't escape. Like, this thing can teleport, apparently. So there's no way I'm going to be able to run away. So I got to turn and face it. I have to fight it. And so she tries to fight it. She hits it, and it hits her back with equal force. She tries to run, and it's literally dancing with her. Like, it's moving in exactly the same movements. Then there's one part where she tries to run to the door, and it runs up behind her and holds her up against the wall. And she pushes, and the harder she pushes, the harder it pushes back, to the point where you really think it's going to crush her skull. Like, it's clearly stronger than she is. Yes. So she can't win. She can't fight. She can't breathe. And she passes out. And when she passes out, she relaxes. And then the creature relaxes and falls and takes the exact same position on the floor that she does. She wakes up, and it's staring at her, holding the exact same position. She gets up and moves away, and it holds the same position with her. So part of the understanding, the interpretation that I have of this is based on the Matrix Trilogy. So a lot of people love the first Matrix movie. Not as many people love the second and third one. I still think, even if they're not great movies, I think symbolically they're some of the deepest stories ever told by human beings. And the end of the Matrix Trilogy, spoilers, is Neo realizes that Smith is his opposite. He is his shadow. And that he can't fight him. That every time that he fights, every time he tries to hit him or win, Smith is equally powerful or more powerful. And they symbolize this by having these fights where they're flying in the air, and then they hit each other, and there's a perfect sphere that expands, indicating they are exactly equal power. So how does he defeat him? He surrenders. He lets Smith win, and only by letting him win, by integrating and incorporating and embracing the shadow, he heals the shadow. He doesn't even defeat it. He just cleanses it. And I think that's what the movie's about. I think the movie is about the shadow, and I think that it's about her. There's a line at the end where they're like, "Why did you make it back and none of the rest of them did?" And she said, "I don't think any of the rest of them had to come back, and I did." Right. She said, "I had to make it back." Why? Because there's this whole subplot about how she was cheating on her husband and how he left immediately after finding out, and she's racked with guilt about it. And so she wants to try to save him. She wants to figure out, because she wants to be able to reconcile this, because she really did love him and it was a mistake. And this shadow thing, I think, represents her guilt and her surrendering to it, and then being able to hand it a grenade and walk away. And then it clears the whole thing. So the idea is her healing her own shadow and her own judgment of herself saved the world.
Right. Yes. Yeah, it's possible that a person might have to see this twice to get that.
Unless you listen to all the spoilers that I just gave.
So the invasion then is the shamanic representation of trauma, which throws an aspect of your astral body somewhere else that you have to reconnect and reunite with. So the annihilation, the thing that wants to take over and ruin everything, is this severed energetic body.
They give a definition. They give a definition of the word annihilation at one point, which is every piece. You will be broken down into every part, and every part will be broken down into parts until there is nothing of the whole left. And I think that one of the deepest spiritual principles you run into if you study philosophy and deep esoteric traditions is the journey towards enlightenment is the journey of the dissolution, the dissolving of the self. And you have to die. That feels like dying.
Yeah.
There's a part in them. Sorry.
The other theme going on throughout is the theme of cancer and malignancy and cells needing to create and split and make new. Yeah. Which is running throughout. I don't entirely know how the pathology or the philosophy around cancer cells and their growth, the rebel cells. It's also shadowy. Cancer is rebel cells. That's taking over and shadowy.
Interpret it. I don't think it's meant to be taken. It's not a story about cancer. It's a story about something symbolic. And I think your point about trauma is much more probably accurate there.
Well, and the other thing is that there are some theories about the ways in which cancers do grow from some sort of emotional trigger trauma that happens that is not healed or mended or faced or dealt with. Yeah. And that the body attempts to get attention in a particular way or becomes like separate from the whole. And so it's like its instructions aren't clear any longer. Without healing or it's like rebel cells just like, oh, we're just gonna get like, I don't know if we know enough about cancers to really, I mean, it was huge everywhere. That looks like malignancy. And as things are just changing and morphing all over the place, it is one of the larger themes that they're pushing harder.
There's another plot point in the Matrix Trilogy in the second movie. So in the first movie, he gets shot and he dies, but he's able to come back to life because he realizes that he's in the Matrix, and he separates his consciousness from his body and like realizes the truth that it's all an illusion. There is no spoon. And then he comes back to life. So there's a part in the second movie where he's fighting like a whole bunch of Agent Smith, and Smith keeps overwriting other people. He's like, he puts his fingers into them and then copies himself onto them. Yeah. And he tries to copy himself onto Neo, and Neo escapes. And they ask him once he gets out of the Matrix, like, what was happening? And he's like, I don't know what he was doing, but I know what it felt like. And he said, it felt like I was back in that hallway. It felt like I was dying. And then at the end of the trilogy, he lets him do that to him. He stops fighting and he surrenders. And when you think about, oh, it feels like dying. Yes. The ego death, the dissolution of the self does feel like dying.
Yes.
Literally, completely, 100%. And that's why we fear it so much. But it is only by surrendering to that. Now, again, I'm not necessarily saying this is what the filmmaker meant.
Totally.
I'm saying this is what I interpret from the movie.
Yeah. Well, did you get any like when you had this frame or because you did watch it 3 times or so? Did you have any personal revelations, or did it help you in any specific thing that was going on in your life at the time?
Emotionally, like a lot of these a lot of the influence that I feel from these types of things is more, I feel things, I feel an emotion, and that I have learned to trust that is actually something shifting. So I don't know if I could quantify it necessarily. I think the moment on the beach when she turns and decides to go deeper in, that might be personally the most important moment for me.
Yeah.
Because the stuff about what happens in the lighthouse, I feel like I had all of those healings when I did this process with the Matrix. Because that was me going, oh, I get it. Okay, I have that shadow inside of me, and you can't defeat it by fighting it. You have to learn to embrace it. And it's all the demons inside your unconscious are fallen angels, or I like to put it, all the monsters in your imagination are wounded children wearing monster costumes.
Yeah.
And they really just need a hug. They need to be embraced. They need love. And so I didn't feel like the ending was more like, yeah, got it. I know this plot point. I know what you're trying to say here, I think. But that moment when she's looking both ways and she goes deeper in, that felt deeply resonant to me. Like, I need that courage, that encouragement. Totally. Wow, I've never never put that together. Yeah, that moment was like, and it's something that made me feel like there are times in the future when I know I'll be faced with that choice. Yeah. And I will remember that moment and choose to go deeper in instead of running away and going home.
Others have fallen and been slaughtered. There are bones of the ones that didn't make it before. And yet we still, whatever is compelling us forward is strong enough and valid enough to continue going.
I like movies like that as a representation of the unconscious, because people who think the unconscious is all light and fluffy, like, you are only hanging out in one very small part of the unconscious. It's one of the reasons why I like Alice in Wonderland as one of the best representations. Oh, that's another good example of crossing the threshold into the unconscious, because Wonderland is kind of freaking scary.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's kind of threatening, and it's loud, and it's weird and confusing. Doesn't follow rules that you expect it to.
It's like the Chocolate Factory too.
Ah, yes. Good example. Another great example. This one resonates with my own exploration of my unconscious, that it's fucking terrifying and threatening, and it feels genuinely dangerous.
Yes.
Like, you can go in there and not make it back out, and most people don't make it back out. And like, that idea of going, you're walking towards the thing that's gonna kill you, and there are bones scattered everywhere, and you got to go anyway.
Yep.
That is so encouraging to me. Like, watching a movie like that gives me courage to dive deeper into my own insecurities and fears and wounds.
Yeah, it's interesting because really psychology has taken paths since Freud to make the unconscious seem kind of friendlier.
Right. Yeah. I don't think Jung understood. And I think Freud may have actually been too far in the other direction. He actually viewed the unconscious as an enemy.
Right.
Jung was smart. Jung got the paradox. He got that it's like, it is what you think it is. It is what you expect it to be in a lot of ways. And if you see evil outside of you, then that is inside of you. The darkness you see outside of you is inside of you.
One of my favorite things about watching lower budget television shows that are sort of mystical is that they frequently will do these like journeying inside someone's mind, and then they'll reuse the sets that they normally have, but then they just make it creepy. So like, if the bar is the set, it's the creepy day in the bar, but you're in someone's mind. And one of my favorites is Legends of Tomorrow, went inside one of the characters' like worst fears. And so her girlfriend joins her in her worst fears, and it's like IKEA. The dangers and the horrors of just getting stuck and trapped in IKEA. And that was the whole episode. I was like, this is awesome. It's sometimes like that, you know.
Yep.
Making the like the worst I think Lost Girl did something where they were like battling the end of the world, but then it ended up like they just used the same sets because in order to win this battle, you had to like go inside the mind or something.
Yeah. When we were watching Preacher, there's a sequence in that where one of the characters she's sort of in limbo, like she's dead, but she hasn't gone to heaven or hell yet. And the limbo is just like a black set of her living room, but it's just like a couch and there's no walls. It's just blackness. And it's just like a couch and a table and a TV and like, yeah, that's their representation of the inner. But when you think about it, like when you dream, how often do you dream of your childhood home or your grandparents' house or something like that?
Yeah, recurring dream of being in my home, but instead of like, there are these other rooms that are through like secret doors that had always been there.
Right.
These rooms had always been there, but you hadn't gone through, and there's these other like people living there. You've got these roommates your whole life that you didn't know were there supporting your household. Yeah. Just like tucked up these other stairs in the attic. It's like, what? The whole time. Yeah.
Well, okay. So what I do apologize for not emphasizing the creepy enough.
It's okay.
And did you enjoy it? I mean, like, did you feel like
good. It was beautiful. I do know that it's a little easier to watch things louder and in a different, like there's a way I sit. There's like this blanket and these pillows and my feet up on a thing. Yeah. And it was really interesting to be. So I was watching on my bed and my cat was several times like purring on my. So when there were the creepy animals and this animal, there was a little like body confusion. Yeah. I was like, this is so wonderful. That is so awful. Yeah, here's what I ended up thinking. I ended up thinking I am open to Natalie Portman being new Thor.
Oh,
I think it'd be great if she ends up having powers and magically is kicking ass. Have you seen
the pictures?
Not yet.
Okay, I don't know if this is true or not, but some of the leaked photos, she's fucking jacked. Like she put on like 35 pounds. Oh. Like I'm serious. Like I have never seen that kind of like who's God damn it, Terminator 2.
Linda Hamilton,
right? We've talked about how much
she was teeny.
But exactly.
Yeah.
She got cut, but like Natalie Portman looks like she ate another person. I'm gonna go look for those. Please make that, because like Natalie's into body transformation. We've seen her do it multiple times. Like for Black Swan, she trained for 6 months with professional ballet dancers. She got ripped and like she knows how to work hard like that. And man, if she's like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what you've seen guys do. I mean, Chris Hemsworth or Henry Cavill, whatever, Superman. he was a skinny dude. He was ripped, but he was a skinny dude and then got, and I'm like, oh, I want to see that. I so hope that when she puts on the Thor, she's like, burr, 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 burr.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to go look for those, because that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds like what Angela Bassett did.
I got to run. We're actually 3 minutes past. Okay. All right. Awesome. On. That was fun. I'm glad. I appreciate you watching it, and I'll be more clear about creepy stuff in the future.
Like, just say it twice. Creepy.
Okay. I'll be like creepy. And then at the end, creepy, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'll be ready.
Okay. TV deeply, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Bye.